starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go. Face in your face. Face in your face.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron. Now, for the benefit of those of you who are not familiar with the channel or are watching the channel for the first time, the reason why it is called Uncommon Sense because here on this platform we discuss everyday issues where we try to find logical solutions, but not everyone uses logic. For that reason, it is called Uncommon Sense. I also have another YouTube channel called Latina Diaspora where I discuss issues pertaining to Latinos in the United States. The link to that channel is in the description. I want to let everybody know that I'm currently live on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. And the subscriber mode has been enabled, meaning if you're not a subscriber and if you wish to enter the comments in the chat, you will need to subscribe to the channel. As always, I want to give a huge shout out to all those who already subscribed to the channel. Whether you've been a supporter from the very beginning or just recently joined, I really appreciate your love and continued support. I also want to give a huge shout out to all those who follow me on social media, as well as those who allow me to enter into your devices, and those who watch from the clouds, even the haters. So what I ask that you do, if you have not done so already, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe, like, and set the bell notification to all. So therefore, whenever I do produce content, you will have the opportunity to get you live or catch you on the playback. And tonight, we're having another episode of Open Discussion. What happens in open discussion, I will share my views regarding some topics. Those of you who are in the audience are able to, if you wish, to make a comment regarding each topic which I will discuss. Also, if you have any topics that you want me to discuss, I will do my best to comply. If it's something where I do not have a great deal of knowledge, I will be transparent and state. There are some topics which I would prefer not to get into because people don't always know how to engage without getting emotional and without going into attack mode. So, the first thing I'm going to discuss, of course, my schedule for next week. Of course, I will do my usual 4 lives, which consists of 3 lives on this channel and 1 on the other. So I will do my lives Sunday night at 10 o'clock, Tuesday night at 8:30, and Thursday and Fridays at 10 o'clock. Okay. I will discuss on Sunday night how I'm going to proceed. And of course, part of the reason is that I have an active social life. So, you do have to have a diversion. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is there are some people that they can retire, but they don't do so mainly because their job is their life. They don't know what, and not experience anything outside the job. Their job has been their primary focus. And some people continue to work to their 60s, or 70s, or 80s because they don't know what to do. There are those who like to work and they'll continue to work. And my thing is, as long as you're doing it of your own free will, by all means do so. Now, I have discussed this. In my case, I plan to retire when I reach 65, which will be October of next year. I do plan to keep myself very busy. Okay. How? Well, for one thing, I will continue attending activities with my union, which consists of meetings and other social functions. Plus, in my area, there are 2 senior citizen centers where they have all sorts of activities. So that's gonna keep me busy. And also I plan to travel. Okay. What I would advise anyone, particularly if you're getting close to the time that you retire, start thinking about what you're gonna do. Okay. During your golden years. And there are many things you can do. You can learn hobbies. If you have prepared yourself financially, you can travel. You can also volunteer your time in many areas like visiting patients in the hospitals, actually volunteering in soup kitchens, getting involved in other activities in your place of worship. These are some of the things that will keep you busy and also keep you alive and will give you purpose. And one thing we have to bear in mind as we age, the people that we know, the people that we love, sooner or later start to disappear to death or losing contact. So by keeping you busy, also you meet other people. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about, I see this Irby. Good evening, Irby. Thank you very much for stopping by. And of course, my friend Irby has his own YouTube channel. So I'm gonna ask that you. Yeah, I know it's a device. It's a computer. I'm gonna have to get a new computer, which I plan to do this month because this one is not exactly okay. The best one in the world. It is that I've been having a lot of technical problems with my other computer. I mean, maybe I might have to. Okay. Oops, excuse me. So maybe I might have to use my phone. It's just that if I use my phone, I have never learned how to share on my mobile device, and I actually have a smartphone, not an Obama phone. So, but one thing, yeah. Evening, Georgia. Thank you very much for stopping by. Um, and of course, my friend Georgia has his own YouTube channel, where I would say most of his content is either Christian oriented or family oriented. So I would ask that did you show some love and check out his content. Now, unless I'm mistaken, I think lately you have been doing some traveling to other cities, where you are able to witness to other people, if I'm not mistaken, Georgia. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is that sometimes at your place of business where you work, um, you're faced with certain situations where you have very little control. Okay? It could be, yeah, let me just take a look. Yeah, from Montana, Wyoming. I have my own stomping grounds of record. Oh, that's true. That is very true. Okay. I hope to be doing some traveling this summer. Okay. Uh, I may be going to Chicago in August. Um, I'm my union. Well, you know what? We all make we all make mistakes. I mean, the only one that's perfect is God Almighty, and none of us is perfect. But I plan to be in Chicago for a week. Um, it'll be good to go back to the Windy City. Maybe I can meet up with the 18th letter, and maybe you can show me some of the sights of the Windy City. Okay. And I plan to be there for a week. So of course, hopefully, I will have some time to do some sightseeing. Okay. And of course, one thing we all have to bear in mind, and this is something that could be a challenge for all content creators, is trying to find the time to create content. Okay. Yeah. Because look, when you think about it, first of all, you want to do your research regarding what is the topic that you wish to discuss. And then you have to think. You have to prepare your facts, and it could be very time consuming. Not all of us have the time, the energy, or the desire to create content on a regular basis. And the radical Latino just did a live on Sunday. It was a short live, and of course, when you're having do lives for any length of time, you get a little rusty as far as sharing, as far as your audio, as far as many of the other technical things that we all need to do as content creators. So obviously he was a little rusty. And he discussed a topic which was the treatment of, okay, and I see we have a guest. So let me just state for the record, the views of those who appear in the panel are not necessarily those of the host. Any attempt to contact, any attempt to share the content without the permission of the host is prohibited. By appearing on the call, you waive your right to the image. Some of the abuse might be hold might become offensive to some viewers. If you look, good
Hi.
evening. Long
Hey,
time no
good
see,
evening,
oh
Jose.
dear.
How are you doing?
Fine. How you doing tonight? How was my audio?
So I can hear myself echoing over your audio.
Okay. So what I'll do is I'll mute myself when I'm not speaking. Maybe that will work.
Here, let me test it. Much better. That's a lot better, Jose, but I can no longer hear myself echoing over your mic. But you can
Yeah,
speak
I'm
now,
gonna
and
have to.
so I'll mute
Yeah.
myself when I speak.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
when you speak.
Yeah. I will definitely have to get myself. I'm planning to get myself a new laptop. It's just that the other laptop I've been using, for some reason, I'm having trouble with my video feed. So I'm using like an older laptop. I do plan to buy another one though, because the other laptop is what I use to work remotely, and it has to be connected to my camera.
Yeah, no worries. I will say this is whenever we, that's right. I'll say this whenever we speak, you mute it and then I'll mute it, or whoever's going to take turns speaking. We should just at least give a visual cue that I'm going to speak or you're going to speak, just so that we don't have to hear the annoying echoes anymore. So like if the way we can cue this is this, I'm going to mute, and then if I want to speak or you speak, Jose, you could just signal me the cue like this, hand raise, if that works.
So when I raise my right hand, that means I'm going to speak. When I raise my left hand, then I'm going to mute myself.
I'll follow the same procedure.
Yeah, I think that way it'll make it more conducive, don't you think?
Yeah, even though our crowd's going to feel that it's awkward, but I think it's a fairly structured procedure, so it's fine with me.
I mean, I know it's gonna sound kind of silly, but it's just until I get a new laptop, it's gonna have to work out that way.
I'm completely fine with that. To be quite honest, I'm already having a lot of fun with this anyway.
Yeah, yeah, it is fun. Now lately, my job moved my entire unit over to a place that's like, if I had to take public transportation, it would take me 90 minutes to 2 hours to get there. So I have a share ride service for people who have disabilities. So that gets me there in about an hour. It's just that when it works well, it works well. And when it doesn't work well, um, oh brother. So in order to make sure that I compensate, I had to arrange a pickup around 2.5 hours before I get into work. Because if for some reason my share ride services malfunction, I have to be able to give myself enough time in order to get to work.
Does sound like a slight inconvenience, but if it's still going to be better than nothing, and at least it's sounds somewhat of a decent accommodation, then that would be better than not having any transportation at all. Even though just the distance gap between where you are and where the job is almost seems like it's not really cost sufficient, but at least you're going to be able to still get there by wheels.
Well, right now I have requested. I put in what's called a traveling hardship. Now, a traveling hardship exists when you are within the city limits and it takes you more than 55 minutes to get from your apartment to your job. According to the Metropolitan Transit Authority, the minimum transit time, it's nearly 90 minutes. I also put in what's called a medical hardship, which, due to my current health condition, I need to be transferred to a location closer to home.
Yeah, and if that's also going to accommodate whatever existing health issues you already have, then that makes it even better. Because according to like state and federal laws, they would have to be able to accommodate you, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that will be under the Equal Employment Opportunities Act. Um, Now, my union is actively involved with my transfer request. It's even reached the attention of the president of my local. Um, Out of the 8 of us that were transferred to our new location, 5 of us have what we call traveling hardships. And in my case, I have a traveling hardship and also a medical hardship.
So then, therefore, according to this state and federal law, they would also have to make sure that you are very well accommodated. And so you pretty much get top priority as far as being accommodated with a job site that's going to be nearest you. They would have to abide by the rules, the standards, and the federal procedures according to the Equal Employment Act.
Yeah, but one thing about municipal agencies, sometimes they tend to drag their feet. And I actually had documentation from 2 physicians that had examined my condition. And they stated, due to the fact that, due to the nature of my condition, I cannot be traveling for extended periods of time, and then I need to be transferred to a location closer to home.
Yeah, then If that's the case, then I would also consider that to be a huge blessing in disguise because you already have the medical proof and the documents which show that you need to be accommodated with a condition that's near you and that you really can't afford to travel those excessively long distances as a result of a injury or a disability. At that point, you are federally covered.
Well, as a believer, um, I do claim to the promise in found in First Peter 2, chapter 2, verse 24, uh, which states, "Oh, I see we have that by His stripes I was
Yo,
healed."
what's up?
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you doing?
How are you doing tonight, sir?
Can't
I'm doing
complain.
lovely. You guys are talking about Jesus. I'm curious. What does Jesus say about alcoholics? Because I'm really fucked right now. Cheers. I'm gonna
Okay.
do a shot. This is my first shot of the night. Cheers, boys. This is like 4 shots.
Jose,
Okay.
mute your
Well,
mic.
first of
I can, or whoever's going to respond first. Well, it's like, so nobody here is opposed to liquor, not even Jesus, though. But what he would be opposed to is just drunkenness.
Yo, Jose, it's you. Can you mute yourself just while you're not talking, please?
You can go, Jose.
Yeah, I'm handling myself. It seems like I'm using up.
You can, if you want, you can press Control D on your keyboard. Control D. That will do it once. Yeah, and then you just turn it on if you want to speak. It's because there's a weird echo. If you don't wear headphones, there's usually an echo.
Okay. Um, okay. My friend Georgia and myself, we are believers in the Lord Jesus Christ, but we do not discriminate against people who don't believe.
I
But
believe.
we
I
ask
believe. I'm
that
Catholic.
people to us, so am I. So am I. All I ask is that people just have a sense of decorum and just be mindful. That's all. That's all.
I guess what I meant to ask was what does Jesus like? What does Jesus say about alcoholics? Or alcoholism. What is the guidance from him?
Well, alcoholism in itself would also just fall into sin because sin is sin, though, and his encouragement is just for people to just humble and consecrate themselves before him so that they could continue to become better versions of themselves, to continue to become purified over time, even though we will fall and stumble. But his encouragement for us is just to continue to seek out his righteousness, be cleansed still, and even possibly turn away from any kind of unhealthy addiction that may be separating you from him. whether that is fornication, drug abuse, or alcoholism, getting loaded all the time, or smashing on girls.
Fornication is lit though. Just like, but like, here's the thing though. It has to be with a purpose though. You know, like if you're going to be having intercourse like just for the sake of it, I think that's wrong. But like, for example, like if you were on like a Genghis Khan sort of mission, like I think that could be like holy. That could like you're spreading the gospel in a way. I mean, wasn't that the entire point of the Genghis Khan's crusades?
Part of it was so, but what would be holier is if those two people are going to get married before the Lord, though, and the Lord honors it because it's equally yoked and it's within his covenant. That would make it even 100 times better than a Genghis Khan crusade. And
It should be lit though. So you were saying? Excuse me.
Oh, I just said is that we date in order to marry, though.
How do we like? I feel like modern society. I mean, not even just modern. Like last fucking. Excuse me. I mean, the last decades. It has been it's been this thing where it's like it's not. People don't take it that seriously. Like so it's like it's really hard when you're the person taking it seriously and the other person isn't. And I think like most people, men and women, don't really. They do like I don't think people disagree with this idea of dating to marry, but I think most people see that as unrealistic. And that sort of like ends up being like maybe the one person is taking it seriously and the other person is taking it seriously, but both people need to be for it to be serious.
Well, yeah, I mean, both people have to be like consecrated and humble before the Lord, though. They have to be, more importantly, equally yoked. And it doesn't really have to be as complicated as people like to make it out to be. But if they really are like walking in like consecration, they're both walking in like repentance. They both want to like mortify the deeds of the flesh. And they really want to walk more in the purity of the spirit, which the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Then they've already established themselves a really decent foundation on what to get married on and just the holy principles that comes along with it.
What is Bristol 316?
What 316? What did you say? 6L?
Or excuse me, I think it's John 3:16.
Yeah, for God so loved the world that he sent his only begotten son, that those who believe in him shall have everlasting life. That's a pretty memorable verse, so that I even know off the top of my head. And I actually like that verse too.
Right. It's dope.
It's super dope. Same with John 14:6, though. I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Those are Jesus' own words. Any good
I
Catholic,
think sorry, go on.
I think that whether a person wants to call themselves a Catholic or a Protestant, though, if they truly live by their Protestant or Catholic values, they would also internalize those beliefs.
I think I was raised Catholic. I mean, I hear these verses and they're beautiful. I think there's a lot of incredible wisdom in it. But I don't know. I think the way that I've interpreted this religion, religious stuff in general. Sorry.
You can go, Jose. I know that me
Yeah,
and you.
okay, okay,
I'll give Jose
excuse,
time to
okay,
speak.
okay, okay, excuse me. Um, okay, I had to switch to my phone because to try to do
Yeah, that's fine, Jose.
Yeah,
I can hear you a lot better on your phone. At least you're not echoing.
yeah, because and I had to like disconnect it. Yeah,
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I have quite a bit of things to say though, but I think that we'll all have an equal and fair exchange of whatever we want to say though. But Six Hill, it's also nice to have you on here to share your ideas.
I appreciate you letting me on.
Likewise.
yeah. I just
Uh,
okay,
sorry, go on. Excuse me.
okay. I just want to acknowledge April Showers in the chat. Good evening, April. Thank you very much for stopping by. Now, okay. Now, now, first of all, I am I am a Catholic. Okay, it's just that not only do I identify as a Catholic, I identify myself as a born again Christian because Catholic is my faith affiliation. But as properly stated in my YouTube, in my Facebook page, um, I'm a Christian by grace and a Catholic by choice.
So you both?
Um, I'm a Catholic. I'm a Catholic that's been born again.
So you were a Christian. You were born a Christian, and then you were born again Catholic. Is that what it is? Am I understanding that correctly?
No, I was no, I was raised Catholic and still am. Okay,
You know, I don't think I never got that much into church stuff besides, attending with family. And I think maybe I did the Sunday church thing a little bit as a kid, but I never understood the denominations and all this like separation, the Catholics, the Christians, the Lutherans, etc., whatever. I mean, I think the way that I always interpreted religion and God and brother Jesus is I understood like one of the first commandments, or what is it called? I'm forgetting. The nuestra oración. It talks about how God loves everyone, God understands everyone. And I hear that, and I really take that to heart, and so like I don't understand the like all of the like denominations and all the like, oh, this word and this apostrophe, or like the Jews or the Islam, whatever. The way I see it is that we're all the Bible says, right, we're all God's creation, right, and God loves us all and understands us all, and I think that applies to everyone. I never understood the.
Yeah,
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, you're right. Given the fact that we are all his creations, we all have his imprint on us. And so when it comes to the matters of denominations, they can at times become pointless if people really want to know my honest opinion about that, because denominations tend to also have like their own subjective rules and structures that are sometimes not even rooted in the Bible. It should be more so that the Bible should be teaching those churches or those quote unquote denominations how to run, and not vice versa. So with all even the 50 plus thousand Protestant denominations that are out there, I think that honestly does become a bit insane. And even for even some people, not all, but even just some, even in the Catholic or even Orthodox churches and traditions, tend to slide into legalism as well. That's not really pertinent to the Bible, though. So I think that people should really look at the Bible more in depth, not really cherry pick or rely so heavily on liturgies and traditions, because none of that stuff is going to really connect people to just the heart of God or just the spirit of God.
I mean, I think also like religion has been this. I think religion gives people. I think I hear people like you guys talking about the Bible and quoting verses specifically. And not that I disagree with anything that's being said, but I think it's interesting how people take what's being said very literally, and they take it as an actual like historical story. I think the way that I've always seen the Bible, even when I was a little kid, having it read to me as at Sunday school, I understood it as an allegory. I understood it as a lesson, not as like a literal matter of fact. This is what happened. It's something. It's an allegory. It's a story to be extrapolated from. But for that doesn't negate like the existence of God. I think I say that, and then people say, "Oh, well, so you don't believe in God?" But there has to be some divine wisdom to know all of these things and understand all of these things, and the beginning before humankind, for recorded history, before all these things.
Could I say something, Sixel? You pretty much just quoted Proverbs chapter 9, where it says that the beginning of wisdom, or better yet, the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One is the beginning. You pretty much just quoted Proverbs 9, by the way. But then, yes, I do also think that the Bible is also full of amazing allegories and also figures of speeches and also parables too, which even Jesus spoke in. But do
Exactly.
but do I believe that it's the definitive truth? I'm going to say absolutely. Otherwise, I would not be spending a lot of my own money to travel all across the country to spread the gospel if I did not think that it was not the definitive truth.
I mean, I'm not saying I don't think I don't think it is the definitive truth. I just think I'm not. This isn't something where I'm not really entirely sure. I have faith in a God. I think that if you look at science, physics, and math, this is just biology, in particular biology. These things around us are just too incredible. They're too incredible, too complex, too amazing to just like it just happened out of thin air. It's like there has to be some intelligent design. I don't know, who knows how far, maybe back into the universe and further than universes, whatever dimensions. But like there has to be some sort of intelligence, some sort of divine intelligence, because it's just amazing. You just look at nature and all of these things, they just were without our intervention, and that's incredible. And I don't think we can I think the only other explanation that would make
Okay,
sense is aliens,
excuse me.
and maybe God is an alien. Sorry, go on.
What's I think Jose wanted to say something though, but what I will conclude on your notes, Excel, is that human mind is already the pinnacle of a creation beyond our own. It's just human arrogance just doesn't want to cross that line, because humanity does not want to be held accountable for its arrogance, because we are an arrogant species and we don't like correction. That's just a human condition. And any idea of God is going to get people's blood boiling, because deep down they know in their hearts that there definitely is something greater than us. Because if we have these minds that work that they do, because that again is the pinnacle of God's creation. But then knowing that, and knowing that we can be righteously judged and held accountable for the hubris doesn't sync that well with the human flesh, which again points to something more divine.
Jose, I think you were going to say something earlier. I'm sorry. What were you saying?
Yeah. Okay. First of all, yeah, yeah. Okay. It's just that this okay. Okay. I'm my apologies. There's a delay. But you see, with me and in Georgia, we believe that the Bible is the literal word of God, and then the things that happen in the Bible have occurred, and there are historical references to verify that these things have occurred. Like, for example, if you go to the tomb where Jesus is reported to be buried, you're going to find that the tomb is empty. There's also historical references regarding the destruction of the Temple of Jerusalem and things of that nature. For us, the Bible is God's life manual. It talks to us how we should interact with God and how we should interact with other people. Now, how I define religion is man's attempt to seek the answers that only God can provide. It's just that many people believe that they can gain salvation through their own works and efforts. What people need to understand that salvation is a gift. You cannot be good enough to earn it. You cannot buy it. It is a free gift. And the fact of the matter is, if you can work for salvation, there would not have been a need for Jesus to die on the cross and they rose again.
We'll be right back, guys.
Yeah, buddy, take your time. Well, it was honor having him on. I know we rarely get unfamiliar guests on here, but I'm glad that he came on.
Yeah, there was another person that was trying to get on. The problem is my computer was running so slow that I had to switch to my phone.
Yeah, no worries. Thankfully, I can no longer hear the echo.
So basically what I'm doing is I'm only, when I'm not speaking, I'm muting myself.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, because I'm having a serious delay.
But I can hear you pretty well now, Jose. I don't think you may have to mute yourself anymore. You can if you want, but at this point, I don't think it's necessary.
Okay. Yeah. But getting back to what I was trying to talk about, it's just that unfortunately these things takes time. Trying to get a transfer to a coastal location.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, there's also I also have another option, which is to retire.
Retire?
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Um,
you're approaching your retirement date.
so yeah. So the tentative date is late 27 or early 28.
Sounds like a good game plan right there.
Yeah.
I am going to retire around that time too, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So yeah.
Did you just pick up on the joke, Jose? Did you pick up on it?
Oh, yes. Now I just got it.
I just said that. Yeah, I'm about to retire around that time too, so I'm looking forward to it. And then you took it seriously. I was joking, man. No, man. I will be.
Welcome.
I'll be
But
35 by then. No, I'm not there yet.
but I would say this much. I do plan to lead a very active retirement life. I will still be attending my union activities. Plus, I have two senior citizen centers in my immediate area. So with all that, that's going to keep me well busy.
Wonderful. Well, I'll be continuing with my career and doing what I'm doing, but I will not be looking into retirement until about another 30 years. Well, more like
One thing I was thinking about doing is studying to become a deacon in my church. Unfortunately, when I approached my pastor about it, I was told that I was too old.
you were too old to be a deacon.
Yes.
Plenty of deacons your age. Even my grandmother's brother, who unfortunately passed away back in October, was a deacon of his church. And guess how old he was? He was 87, 88, I should say. Yeah, man, my uncle Robert was 88 years old and he was a deacon.
Well, in my faith, in my faith affiliation, there is an age limit, and unfortunately, I passed the age.
Yeah, that's not a thing in biblical Christianity, though, but I get it. And by the way, I won't even just say that it's a Catholic thing. You even have Protestants who do the same thing. It goes on both sides, though. So I don't want anyone thinking that I'm going hard on Catholics, though, because actually, I will actually be a lot more critical of the American church, which is under the category of, I guess, if people really want to go that far with labels, it still is under the category of Protestantism. But where is any of that stuff rooted in the
Well,
Bible?
one thing that people need to bear in mind is that that, there are different types of Catholics. Okay, first of all, those who are just like what I would consider cultural Catholics, that it's not based by any faith. It's just based on the fact my parents are Catholic, and so therefore I'm Catholic. And then those of us that try to live a more biblical uh, orientation when it comes to our faith.
Mm. Yeah, okay, understandable.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't really be what a church particularly wants. So the question is whether God could actually commission you into a position like that. And if the Lord commissions you and you truly hear from him, then it wouldn't really matter what some Catholic or Protestant church has to say about it, because I'm going to listen to God the Father and not what a church has to say, because then that starts to creep into churchianity and not Christianity. But so maybe you might already have a calling
Yeah.
in your life, though, to look into deaconship, though. That because that's between you and the Lord, though, and I don't know everybody's relationship with the
Yeah.
Lord. I would never presume to know what somebody's walk is like with the Lord, but there are times where he will call somebody of any age to be a deacon of a church, though, and if God can really confirm that, then it doesn't really matter what your church says. Galatians 1:10 does talk about pleasing
Yeah.
man or pleasing God. So which one is it?
Uh, while we discussing, mm, yeah, yeah. Well, while we're talking about it, are you aware of the meme where the president posted of himself comparing himself to Jesus?
Yeah, I saw that. And would I say it's blasphemous? I'm going to have to say it is. Even if now I heard that people are saying that he wasn't the one who actually shared that himself. Even if that were true, then he would really have to pay close attention to who is running his account. Because if I have entrusted my platform to you, then I would expect you to use it accordingly. And if you ever portrayed me as a Jesus figure, I would not take kindly to that at all because it's blasphemous.
Yeah. I personally had a lot of issues behind that because of the fact, one, because of vanity, number one. Two, considering the actions that he has taken in his personal life, many of them are not Christ-like.
No,
And his excuse when he says comparing himself as a physician, how many physicians do you know actually um, dressed himself like Jesus?
none.
Exactly,
None.
exactly. And it's just that unfortunately he has like a very high amount of self-esteem, which is almost insane.
Yeah, and then also there's regardless of who people voted for, you have to demonstrate that you can criticize whoever you voted for. I'm not at all impressed with a lot of the stuff that Trump does and how he conveys his messages. They tend to be fruitless, they're very fleshly, and he tends to operate a lot when it comes to his pride, and he gets very beside himself too. He deserves that criticism. And again, if he wasn't the one who made that meme, then again, think about who runs your account and whether they have been properly managing it, though. Because if I put you as manager in charge, though, and you're messing stuff up that aren't really good for optics purposes, then I will hold you accountable for that. And I'm not going to be happy about that at all, let alone portraying me as Jesus, though. That's blasphemous right there.
Yeah.
I'm not impressed at all. Unacceptable. But then also at the same time, those who voted know what these people are like. They know their personality. They know they do like to ruffle the feathers a bit. So at the same time, people can't get too mad over that and talk about how they regret their votes because of what they got when they knew that his personality was like that coming into it. So that ultimately should inspire us to pray for the man and pray that he could start exercising more impulse control and self-control. And I think that's a very fair and nuanced point of view that I can offer. Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely correct. And in fact, the Bible instructs us to pray for our leaders. Okay, because first of all, throughout history, there's been God-fearing leaders and those who are not God-fearing. So therefore, we call to pray for our leaders and make sure that we are mindful of our actions and that our actions have consequences, both positive or negative.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, the Lord is going to deal with world leaders, and not the world, but God is also going to deal with world leaders who are just acting too impulsively right now, though, which Trump is undeniably guilty of. Whether you're somebody who likes him or not, though, there's no denying that there are times where he has an impulsivity issue. And am I impressed by that? No, I shouldn't be. If I were in that office right now, I would actually have the president read Galatians chapter 5, which are all traits of the fruits of the spirits, which are kindness, humility, gentleness, meekness, and also self-control. You can even slap humility onto that as well. But then that's also at the same time, we also have to look at it like this. God can still use a heavily flawed person that we otherwise wouldn't even like at all. Because if you think back to what King David did, and if King David were in charge of us right now, I already know there would be a lot of people who would not be on the King David bandwagon because of his affair with Bathsheba and causing her husband at the time, Uriah, to be killed. And then also, even before that, David was also a very prideful man too, and God dealt with him over his pride. If people really also look back into his story. But needless to say, he was a man after God's own heart, and he displayed godly sorrow for what he had did. And do I hope that for Trump? Absolutely. I pray for that. I think that's a very fair, nuanced, balanced, biblical view on this issue, and looking at it more through spiritual eyes and not fleshly eyes. But yeah, you can speak now, Jose.
Yeah. One thing I forgot, I had myself muted. But one thing we have to bear in mind that we should pray for all our political leaders, because one thing we have to bear in mind is that according to Hebrews 9, verse 27, clearly states that we are all appointed to die once, but to face judgment. And depending on how we lead our lives, it's going to determine what type of judgment we're going to receive. Either we're going to be judged for the talents that we were given as believers, or we will be judged facing the great white throne judgment. And I would not want to be in that place for any way, shape, or form.
Same here, not even for my worst enemies.
Yeah. In fact, one thing I pray every morning before I go to work is that I pray not only that God blesses my my loved ones, but also those who despise me. Because one thing we have to understand, God sends His sunlight on all people, the just and the unjust.
That's
God
right.
sends rain to all people, just and unjust. God is loving to all, but He's also just to all.
Yeah, loving and just to all, though. And I just love how that message is echoed all throughout the Old Testament, too. Because if we can even point out to God's universal judgment, too, such as judgment against his own people, and even justice against the Babylonians and the Persians as well. Because if we remember in the book of Habakkuk, the prophet had questioned God why he was using a wicked nation such as Babylon as an instrument of justice against Judah, his own people, though, because he is still is a just God, and he is never going to put up with people's sins and lawlessness. That even goes for his own people. But then at the same time, he doesn't put up with wickedness either, and he ended up dealing with the Babylonians as well by allowing them to get conquered by the Persians at the time. And so that all illustrates God's universal judgment for everybody. And then this is where universal salvation comes into place, in how he wants everybody to be universally saved. That's where he used Jonah to share the gospel, share the good news of God to the people of Nineveh. And Nineveh, the people of Nineveh, they were Assyrians. And Jonah did not like that, but God still insisted because those were still his creations. You can speak now, Jose.
Yeah. Well, look, the fact of the matter is, okay. Well, first of all, the fact of the matter is that we do not understand the extent of God's love, God's mercy, and God's justice. And one thing we have to understand that until we are born again, we are spiritually dead. So therefore, we're not going to understand when the concept of sin, the concept of eternal separation. And I use this analogy. It's like a person who speaks Spanish is trying to speak to someone that speaks Japanese. A person that's spiritually dead is not going to understand the things of the spirit.
No, they're going to keep looking at things from a fleshly lens. Don't expect somebody who doesn't know God to look at it through a spiritual lens. That only belongs to people who actually know God. And even also for people who can, by the way,
Mhm.
people who can actually have access into the spiritual, they just don't really know how to use it properly, though, to redirect that energy towards the right thing.
Yeah. one thing we have to bear in mind, and this is what I always tell people: when it comes to heaven, there's going to be three types of surprises. The first surprise is going to be the people that we're going to see in heaven. That those people that we never think will never get saved or born again. The
Agreed.
second surprise is those who we expected to get to heaven are not there. And then the third surprise is you might be surprised by your actually end up yourself.
Fact.
Okay. And I'm going to be perfectly honest. When I face judgment, and then when God asks me, "Do I deserve to be in heaven?" I'm going to say that no, I don't deserve it. I deserve to burn in hell. But out of your love and mercy, I accepted what you did for me on the cross, and I tried to live my life the way that you wanted me to live to the best of my ability.
That's my response too.
Yeah.
Please, and if you even look at my history, though, do I deserve to be shredded from limb to limb, even though that sounds a bit graphic? Yes, I do. But what I would tell the Lord is that I recognize where I was wrong. I displayed godly sorrow over that. I utilized self-control, and I allowed you to come into my heart and circumcise it and build me up to my ultimate potential, and then live up to the divine plan that you had for me to my best ability. But then I will tell Father God, if you think that I deserve to come into your kingdom, I'd be happy. But if not, because of my iniquities in this world, I hope that you can forgive me now so that I can come in. But I am not going to beg, because I am not the ultimate judge.
Mhm. Well, well said. Well said.
Because
But
God can use unsaved people, and he does it all the time. And how do you know that you're not one of those unsaved people? And then after all, Jesus did say in Matthew 7 that those who prophesied in his name or casted demons out in his name, they will say, Lord, Lord, did we not do all these things in your name? Only for Jesus to say, depart from me, you workers of lawlessness, I never knew you. How do you know that that's not us? It's a reasonable question to ask, but all I know is that I allow him to circumcise my heart daily, and that I die and crucify my flesh every day and fight against the urges that go outside of his will. But where he wants me to go, that's ultimately up to him, and I am not going to beg.
you know something, Georgia, just the whole idea of saying, I prophesied in your name, I healed in your name, I did wondrous things in your name. That kind of takes the vanity, because we all know God is the one that performs the work. We are simply the instruments that God may use for his honor and glory.
Yep, his messengers. We're only meant to be his messengers who are vessels of his redemptive love.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's a matter about whether you can live up to that purpose of becoming a vessel of his redemptive love and sharing it to others and really doing it with intentionality because it's something that your heart truly connects to. And the question is that you? You have to be a person who is seasoned and already built up and anointed to do so in order for that to even happen. I would not be wasting my time or spending all this money traveling the country if I did not know that the Lord put that on my life and on my gift to do so.
Hmm. Exactly. I remember, and as I said a couple of times, I think the most controversial statement I ever made on social media was the fact when I did say, and I said this without hesitation, that I deserve a burn in hell because people are saying, "How can you say that?" And people don't understand when they make the statement, "How can a loving God send people to hell?" God doesn't send people to hell. We choose to go to hell by the actions that we've taken and by rejecting God's gift of salvation.
Yeah, and for people who are wondering, is that they feel that God is just going to make them feel restricted. And I would like to ask the question is restricted from doing what? Losing your freedom, what do you have to lose by following Jesus? That seems like now that's a bit of a thought-provoking question right there, but I would wonder, restricted from what? And what do you have to lose? And why do you feel that you're going to lose it? And what does it fulfill within you? Like, I'll tell a man that if he feels that he won't be able to smash on girls and he feels restricted from smashing on girls, I'm like, well, okay, well, what's that fulfilling inside of you? And what kind of void is it fulfilling in? Because, dude, if you feel that you have to consistently smash on girls, then it's a revelation of a lot of emptiness you have going on inside of you, and that your way of coping with it is not the right way. So, in a way, you're not really free. You are just enslaved to something that you know is taking you out. See what I mean? So, if somebody follows Jesus, he can free you from that and really, really teach you how to break free from an unhealthy desire to smash on girls. Because any man who tells you that, and if you ask him, Jose, and this comes from me counseling other men too, they will tell you that, hey, they feel empty. They feel like they're always on the brink of a mental breakdown 50% of the time. They have low self-esteem. They were wounded or have mommy issues too. And they're doing all the smashing of girls as a way to cope with some deep-seated soul wounds. You are not free if you have all that stuff going on.
Yeah. Mhm.
You're delusional if you say you're free.
Yeah. Unfortunately, people confuse that for freedom. Yeah,
Hold on, hold
because
on.
the reality is this. Oops, we just lost. Okay, looks like we just lost Jojo for a second. Hopefully he'll hop on. Otherwise, I will start to wrap this up. Um, First of all, my apologies. It's just that there's a delay for a few seconds. But I'll definitely try to get a new laptop to resolve this issue. But in any case, I'm real glad we did have a new person there. And apologies, it was another person I was trying to get on. It's just that I was having delays with my laptop, which froze everything. And unfortunately, things like that do happen. But at this point, I'll start to wrap this up. It was a interesting evening, even with all the technical difficulties. But in any case, one thing we have to bear in mind is that everyone is free to pursue their paths. It's better if you're following the path as a Christian with Him as your only guide. But other people choose different paths, and that's something we all have to bear in mind. So I will not next time I will be live will be on Sunday at 10 o'clock with a different topic. As always, the playback gang. It's okay. It's okay, Jojo. Don't worry about it. I'm getting ready to wrap this up. It is because it is a bit late. But in any case, I do hope that you enjoy tonight's live, even with all the typical glitches and whatnot. The playback gang, you're more than welcome. Leave your comments. Just try to keep it respectable. And of course, we're gonna close the same way that we always close. We must do everything possible to avoid the persons that are mentally and intellectually challenged, because if we fail to do so, we were infected by the stupidity and mass stupidity. And of course, whatever we say and do, we should do for the glory of God. And with that being said, I thank you very much. I wish you all a very wonderful good night, a wonderful weekend, and take care, stay blessed, and peace.